You need to see what Joy Behar has said about Trump supporters, but trust me, this is going quite too far. Check this out.
Because they write mean things to me, and then I look up their handle, and it always says, love Trump, love Jesus. I love Jesus, too. You know, we all love Jesus. But they love Trump and Jesus? That's an oxymoron right there.
Yeah. Joy Behar feels like she has the moral and religious authority to say such a thing. Why is that an oxymoron? Does she still believe Trump is some sort of demon? Well, Trump is a man of God, even if she thinks otherwise. You'll see why in a second. Plus, the deeper implications of calling Christian Trump supporters an oxymoron are worse. She legitimizes what Biden and Harris are doing to the country. It's been over 3 years since the beginning of the Biden administration, and all we've seen is immortality, authoritarian rule, mandates, and even discrimination towards half of the population. Trump is at least honest, doesn't fool around, and even calls things by their name. Trump's a Christian and worships Jesus, trying to embody values like justice and fairness. That's why he always focuses on his rivals and not on the voters of his rivals. Trump is upfront and Biden is not. In fact, Jesus was a man who advocated for strong values, even at some point resisting Satan's temptation to dominate the world through centralized authority. Trump knows these biblical teachings very well, and in case you don't remember, here they are.
Bureaucrats think they can run over your lives, overrule your values, meddle in your faith, and tell you how to live, what to say, and where to pray. But we know that parents, not bureaucrats, know best how to raise their children and create a thriving society.
Joy Behar and The View hate Trump for ideological reasons, not because he's against free speech. This is something most Trump haters don't understand. Joy Behar pretty much calls former President Donald Trump a demon for being outspoken and anti-establishment. But she overlooks the flaws of the Biden administration. Parents these days are almost ostracized for choosing how to raise their children, and Biden and company are trying very hard to stop parents from doing that. Jesus and Christianity advocates for family, not for a big government that regulates every aspect of society.
And above all else, we know this. In America, we don't worship government, we worship God.
That said, Joy Behar feels free to say lies under the guise of freedom of speech. This very idea the Constitution defends is being questioned because TikTok is spreading misinformation, and how this is used by youngsters as their news source. Check this out.
A third of young Americans seem to be getting their news from TikTok, which a lot of, this is what they're saying, which is what a lot of Republican candidates said they want to ban at the last debate. Now, Nikki Haley gave another suggestion about how to protect users against misinformation. Take a look.
I want freedom of speech for Americans. I don't want freedom of speech for Russia and Hamas. And that's what's happening right now. So the way you fix that is we need our social media companies to verify everybody.
More regulation and more control over what people say according to their nationality. Well, looks like depending on who you are, you're allowed free speech or not. Guess what happened to, I don't know, people who supported Canadian truckers or even Trump supporters? Under the guise of protecting young kids, there's a way of exercising more control over the narrative. This is where this free speech thing gets tricky. If Democrats and woke people are so convinced that their views are correct, why do they want to censor those who disagree with them? At the end of the day, if their version is correct, people could freely choose it over that of the other side, right? This is nothing but a cover-up of authoritarian rule.
Now, government intervention is the problem, because I wish the social media companies would come together and eliminate anonymous users for the very fact that misinformation is spreading at a ridiculous level. When we were talking about TikTok and the users that are getting 76% of people 18 to 24 are on TikTok. The amount of those people who admit that's their news source has doubled since 2020. Some people say mainstream media has always leaned. There's a lot of checks and balances to mainstream media. There are regulations, there are a lot of faces and heads and identified people behind these organizations.
This is wrong. Does mainstream media have checks and balances? How come that is true when the legacy media itself is bailed out after spreading fake news? Think of CNN or any major legacy media corporation. During the last 3 years, they've been lying day in and day out, and now they contradict their own statements without suffering the consequences of their actions. If at all the regulations surrounding legacy media allow them to say whatever they want and even receive millions in subsidies. People are resorting to other platforms because the credibility of legacy media has declined drastically. Does TikTok spread misinformation? I don't deny it, but this double standard is completely unacceptable.
We have a whole generation of people consuming TikTok as if it is the law, and it is creating a radical young movement right now that is scary.
I understand this idea of identifying users, but saying that TikTok is creating a young radical movement is nothing short of a biased statement. Sure, TikTok is a Chinese platform that's doing lots of damage, but with social media, young people have lots of information a few clicks away, and it's not hard to go through some sources to double-check info on your own. What really bothers The View and mainstream media is not the spread of misinformation. It's the fact that they are losing credibility.